patchwork. That was the paradigm. The issue was how to move away from that. The process was that in Europe, the nationalism of many of those countries that developed led to wars which affected the territories that were colonized. What eventually happened is for Europe to discover that if it continues with micronationalism, then there would continue to be devastation of the continent, and ultimately Europe will not be able to prosper. So as a result, a new paradigm took place after the Second World War. Rather than the issue of reparation, etc., it moved more into the program of the European recovery program. We talk about the integration of Europe, move away from protectionism, promote free movement of people, goods, and investment, promote investment in agriculture through subsidizing agriculture so that they can have food self-sufficiency, and then to move into industrialization, machine building, so that they can have jobs. And with the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, what is now called the World Bank, with also the IMF, they promoted inter-European trade and the expansion of the European economy, and that is what is responsible for the European community today. Now, in our own part of the world, the colonization process led to, in 1963, the creation of the OAU. The idea was to create a more integrated continent where there will be an African Investment Bank, African Central Bank, so that the currency would also be harmonized. Then investment from each of the countries into the central bank, into the investment bank, would lead to something like the European Investment Bank. And the earning of resources will enable that bank to be able to invest in processing, in machine building, in different countries in the continent, which are integrated, united. So in that sense then, you build an investment base and also build a capital base for the takeoff of the country. That was the idea of Pan-Africanism. But what had happened after the 1963 negotiation is that each of the countries felt that to have a national president with a national economy was more favorable to the leaders who were more interested in being leaders than the collective interest of the continent. So your question is, we are still talking about nations, and we are talking about people being patriotic. That must be put in context. There is the patriotism which is narrow nationalistic, and patriotism which creates a sovereign citizen. Because you recognize that there are geopolitical entities anyway, that you call the country, you call the nation. Sometimes those geopolitical entities will have particularly one group that you call a nation, nationalist and nationalism, or a country where different groups, ethno-linguistic groups, come together to form the country, and still, and which you must bear in mind, is that that nation can only be a nation if you deconstruct the entities that divide them into ethno-linguistic group, into religious group, into gender. So if the Christian is sovereign, the Muslim is sovereign, the woman is sovereign, the man is sovereign, the Fola sovereign, Sarahule sovereign, Manjago sovereign, Aku sovereign, Mankai sovereign, everybody sovereign, Manjago sovereign. So it means that everybody shares something in common, that is equal ownership of the Gambia. That the power, the authority of the Gambia resides in each of them. So in that sense then, you cannot have a religious state, just like Gambia was trying to create an Islamic state or a gender state, or an ethno-linguistic state, because then it is each sovereign person who has a depository, who becomes a depository of the sovereignty of the nation. This is what we're talking about, that you need an Africa where all, in each geopolitical unit, see themselves as equal owner of that particular country, then move to select a leadership that will have the interest of creating the economic, civil, social, political, ecological, cultural policies that defends the liberty, dignity, and prosperity of that sovereign person, irrespective of gender, religion, ethno-linguistic origin. Once you create such a country, and that is in Senegal, constructing the micro-nationalism that had been created after 1963 and push the continent towards greater integration and greater equality in its relation with the rest of the world, where you can have a policy of mutual interest that serve the interests of the people of the world, and therefore move towards greater state-to-state, people-to-people, state-to-people relationship in the world that create a greater humanity, a universal world where all peoples live in liberty, dignity, and prosperity. I think that is the construct that we are working on. That is the paradigm we are trying to build.
Mr. Sal. Sorry, the mic seems to be off, so I will try and project as loud as I can. Yes, Mr. Sal, I want to personally thank
I have a mic here, 1 second.
Yes.
I'm sorry, before you take that, can I just say this would be the last question? I think we're past 8:15 now. So this will be the last question. There will be a photo op opportunity if you want to take photos and Salam. So we'll take the last question and then I'll hand over to Alpha and we'll give the vote of thanks.
So yes, Mr. Sala, my name is Molu Sar. I work for a private tech company. And I personally want to thank you for the work you've done for bringing this written change in this country. My question has to do with leadership. The problems with Africa and our country are immense. Everybody has different solutions, and that's good in a democracy. My personal cause is leadership. I believe that absolute power corrupts absolutely. I believe that there should be rule of law to check power, especially where it is unchecked. So my question for you is, what is the coalition's official stance on term limits? I know this is not something that everybody agrees on. Some people think it's an important idea and all that sort of thing. So what are your personal views on term limits, and what is the coalition's stance on term limits?
I believe what you have said is the key. That you have each person having the right to say how he or she wants this country to become. In exercising that right, we must know what can move us forward. And that requires an enlightened citizen, which is inconceivable without the type of education that is taking place. Education in the classroom, education through the media, education through debates, education in the social media, even we argue in order to eventually arrive at a consensus. But what is important is that we continue to suffer from a crisis of leadership if the people who select leaders remain ignorant. So the real battle is against this. Now the question you've raised is this. We're talking about term limits. Is this a foreign import? The issue of term limits must be linked to the development of political consciousness as people construct republics to replace monarchies. In the creation of republics, we must ask ourselves the question, where must power lie? If we believe, and philosophers had argued this before the building of democratic institutions, that if we have certain human beings among omniscience, are all-knowing, then we can say that those are the only people who should govern. Therefore, they should be omnipotent. And we should leave them to have that power to govern all of us for all time. But if we accept that we on this earth are at this moment limited in knowledge, maybe unequal, but we are all limited in knowledge. Therefore, none of us has that knowledge to be the only governor. So that is why we must conceive the developments in society as real developments we can learn from. And what is that lesson? My conclusion. What we have learned is that the highest level of a democratic society is the republic. And that republic is a republic because it creates the equality of citizens. And all citizens belong to a country and they are equal in sovereignty irrespective of their different status. Once you accept that as a basis, and it is accepted under the Gambian Constitution as the basis of our republic, that sovereignty resides in the people, and we are all equal in sovereignty, then the next question is, how do we govern the country? Because all of us cannot govern the country. And this is why it establishes the principle that each sovereign person will have a right to vote, to decide who should be president, who should be legislature. Now, why do we talk about a term limit? The term limit helps to avoid self-perpetuating rule. It helps to cement that fact that one individual is not supreme to the other. The very thing that you have said, absolute power will lead to absolute tyranny. It leads to absolute corruption because there will be no check. So therefore, if we want better governance, the sovereign people must have all rights to check the people they put in office, because the people they put in office are mere public trustees. They trusted them. I own my compound, I'm traveling, I say, I trust you, manage my compound for you. You're a public trustee. I have my wealth, I'm traveling, I want you, this is my business, manage it for me. I have many shops, I can only be in one shop. I take you, you are my trustee, run my shop for me. You have people that you hold in trust. So since it is your property, they don't own it. So we must never take the presidency as something owned by the person. We must never take a legislature as something owned by the person. This is a place of public trust. Now you are saying, establish a term limit so that there will be no self-perpetuating rule. The person will be selected for 4 years. Do your best. Another 4 years. Do your best. Then leave the office. It means that you are creating an instrument which helps the people to put a check to the perpetuation of a single individual in office. My conviction is that that is the best way to nurture, that is the best way to mentor a citizenry who are yet to be fully groomed, to be able to take charge of their destiny so that they can make informed choices, so that they get used to changing that leadership, and as a result, take greater responsibility for selecting that leadership. I am convinced that this is one of the best instruments that we can have and best institution we can build to help the people to avoid self-perpetuating rule and to avoid the type of tyranny that you talk about.
Thank you again for all your questions. Somalia was part of the leadership team. and he will, I guess, conclude. There will be a photo opportunity as well.
My own question, but I'll let it pass and then do it in another session. And we've been keeping a lot of people. Uncle Khalifa, as he said, we address him how best we feel comfortable with him. Thank you so much for coming. And it's an honor listening to you. It's something that when one listens to you, it's like reading a bunch of insects about the most amazing food. This is the place. Coming to the ushers and the media, thank you all so much for your time. LIFT, just to be clear, LIFT is non-political, non-religious. We are an organization that's just trying to shape the minds of the young people and build a better nation. Past speakers, this is the third edition. The first one, a foundation of everything starts, the beginning of everything starts with the best foundation. And I'm very pleased to tell you that the first speaker that we had at LIFT is Khadija Ajar Tambajan, who is the lead consultant at Makali Market Consulting. She came here and she built the Rock Foundation that inspired a lot of young people. And including she's been mentoring me from day one. That's what got me here, that's what all this happened. Also our brand manager, it's also there who designed this. He's waving me at the back so people can know that he's Salim. Then we had Raman Ture, who did not teach me only but a lot of young people about management. And I would say something, he said, you're not a good leader. This goes to everybody that's here, unless when your company can operate without you or in your absence. So if you're a leader, your place can't operate, your staff can't operate in your absence, then you did not do any good leadership. And that has taught me to make sure that all my tasks get complete, because I want my leaders to realize that I've done everything and in their presence or their absence. And lifting, Salim, Fadi, Dabah Malik, and Mandy, they've been doing great. This is something that we believe that we can take to a higher heights. And not just Gambia, across Africa. And it's us, the Gambians, that are actually going to own it and then make a big impact in the lives of many young Africans. And also the next lead speaker would be Jaisa, Muhammad Sabali's wife. If you want to stay up to date with the latest information, please do visit our Facebook page and our Twitter also. Live streaming videos would be available on YouTube as well.